The space station floated in the darkness between two star systems. It was called Meridian Point and it belonged to no one. That was why they chose it for the meeting. Neutral ground, safe ground, or so everyone hoped. Morgan pushed her small cart down the long hallway. The wheels squeaked softly against the polished floor. She was 57 years old, with gray hair pulled back in a simple bun and laugh lines around her eyes. Her uniform was plain gray with a small name tag. She had worked on this station for 8 years, serving food and drinks to whoever needed them. Today, she would serve the most important meeting in human history. The doors to the grand chamber slid open and stepped inside. The room was massive. A huge curved window showed the stars outside. In the center sat a long table made of dark wood brought all the way from Earth. Around it sat beings from 12 different species. Had seen aliens before. Everyone had since humanity joined the Galactic Concord 60 years ago, but she had never seen so many powerful ones in the same room. Ambassadors, generals, admirals, the people who decided whether worlds lived or died. She kept her eyes down and began her work. Water glasses needed filling, coffee needed pouring, small tasks, invisible tasks. Nobody looked at the woman with the cart. She was just part of the background like the furniture. The human delegation sat on one side of the table. Admiral Ben led them. He was a tall man with silver hair and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile. He kept looking at the other side of the table where they sat. Looked at them too, but carefully. They were hard to ignore. They stood nearly 9 feet tall, with scales that shimmered between green and gold. Their eyes were yellow with black slits like a snake. They wore armor even to peace talks. They did not believe in showing weakness. Their leader was Admiral Iran. He was old for which meant he had survived longer than most. His scales had faded to a darker shade, and scars crossed his face and arms. He sat perfectly still, watching the humans the way a predator watches prey. Poured water for one of the human diplomats. Her hands did not shake. The talking had been going on for 3 days now, had been there for all of it, moving quietly, listening. The wanted human colonies, 3 of them, worlds where millions of people had built homes and raised families. They said these worlds were in their territory. Old maps, old claims. It did not matter that humans had lived there for 40 years. Admiral tried to negotiate. He offered trade agreements, mining rights, technology sharing. They were not interested. "You do not understand," Iran said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "They do not bargain for what is already ours. We take what belongs to us. This meeting is a courtesy, a chance for you to surrender peacefully." His face went red. "Those colonies have 12 million people, families, children. You cannot simply take them." Iran showed his teeth. It might have been a smile. "We can, we will, unless you wish to stop us." The room went quiet. Everyone knew what that meant. War. A war humanity could not win. The fleet was 3 times the size of Earth's navy. Their weapons were older but proven. They had been conquering worlds when humans were still living in caves. Filled Admiral's coffee cup. He did not notice her. His hands were clenched under the table. "There must be another way," one of the human diplomats said. Her name was Cole and she was young for this kind of work. Her voice trembled slightly. "The Conquered has rules, protocols for disputes." An alien from a species called the spoke up. They were small beings, gray-skinned and large-eyed, known for their wisdom. "The Conquered can mediate, but we cannot force a resolution. If they wish to pursue their claim through force, that is their right under the old laws." "The old laws," Iran repeated with satisfaction. "Yes. Before your Conquered existed, the galaxy had simpler rules. The strong take, the weak give. Humanity has been protected by treaties and alliances for 60 years. Perhaps you have forgotten what the universe truly is." He stood up. He was enormous, towering over everyone in the room. His yellow eyes swept across the human delegation. "You are soft," he said. "Your warriors fly ships and push buttons. You have forgotten the ways of blood and blade." He placed one clawed hand on the table. "I have killed with these hands. I have tasted victory and defeat. What have you tasted, humans? Coffee and comfort." No one answered. Set down her coffee pot and folded her hands in front of her. Oran looked at, "I will give you one solar cycle to accept our terms. After that my fleet moves. Your colonies burn, your people die. This is not a threat. It is simply what will happen." He turned to leave. His guards, 4 massive warriors, moved to follow him. Watched him go, her face showed nothing. But deep inside, in a place she had kept locked for 30 years, something stirred. A cold feeling, an old feeling. She recognized Oran, not his face. Faces changed over 30 years, but his voice, his way of moving, the pattern of scars on his left arm. She had seen those scars before when they were fresh and bleeding. He did not recognize her. Of course he did not. She had been young then, strong and fast and full of fire. Now she was gray and soft and invisible. The doors closed behind the delegation. The human side of the table sat in silence. Admiral put his head in his hands. Cole looked like she might cry. Picked up her cart and began collecting empty glasses. Nobody thanked her. Nobody looked at her. That was fine. She did not need them to look. She needed to think. The universe had just put something in front of her. A choice. She could stay invisible, stay safe, let others handle this. Or she could do what she had done 30 years ago when the thought they could break humanity. She thought about the 12 million people on those colonies, the families, the children. She thought about the young soldiers in the human military who would die in a war they could not win. She thought about what she had buried inside herself, the thing she had promised never to wake up again. Morgan finished her work and wheeled her cart out of the meeting room. Her face was calm. Her hands were steady. But her eyes had changed. Something old and cold looked out from behind them now. Something that had named long ago in fear and respect. The ghost was waking up. The next morning came too quickly. Had not slept. She had spent the night in her small room, sitting in the dark, thinking, remembering things she had tried to forget. When she reported for duty, the station was buzzing with tension. Word had spread about the failed negotiations. Staff members whispered in the hallways. Some were already making plans to leave. Nobody wanted to be caught on a neutral station when war broke out. Put on her gray uniform and went to the meeting room. The delegations were gathering again, though nobody seemed hopeful. They had given humanity one day to surrender. That day was almost over. She set up the coffee service and checked the water pitchers. Simple tasks, familiar tasks. They helped her stay calm while her mind worked on bigger problems. Admiral arrived first. He looked like he had not slept either. His uniform was perfect, but his eyes were tired and empty. He sat down heavily in his chair and stared at the table. Cole came in next, followed by 3 other diplomats and 2 military officers. They spoke in low voices but heard enough. There was no plan, no solution. Earth had sent messages to its allies in the conquered, but no one wanted to fight the over 3 human colonies. The math was too simple. They were too strong. The doors opened and they entered. Oran walked in front, his guards behind him. He looked rested and pleased. Why would he not be? He was winning. He sat down and folded his clawed hands on the table. "Have you made your decision, Admiral?" Straightened in his chair. "We have. The Terran Republic cannot accept your terms. We will not abandon 12 million of our citizens." Oran did not look surprised. "Then you choose war." "We choose to defend our people, as any species would." The Admiral made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your defense will fail. Your fleet will burn. Your colonies will fall. And then we will take what we want anyway. You only delay the end." His jaw tightened. "Perhaps, but we will not surrender." For a long moment, Oran studied the human admiral. Then he leaned back in his chair. "There is another way," he said slowly. "An old way, one that your species may not know." The representative leaned forward. "Admiral Iran, if you are suggesting what I think you are suggesting." "The right of," Iran said. "Single combat, champion against champion. The winner takes all." A murmur ran through the room. Set down the water pitcher she was holding. Her heart was beating faster now. "This is an ancient practice," the said carefully. "It has not been invoked in formal negotiations for over a century." "Because no species has been brave enough to accept it," Iran replied. "But the laws of the conquered still recognize it. A binding challenge. Two warriors fight. The losing side accepts the winner's terms. No war, no fleets, just blood and honor." Looked uncertain. "You are proposing that instead of a war, we settle this with a duel." "I am giving you a chance to save your people without watching your navy burn." Oran showed his teeth again. "One warrior from your side, one from mine. Combat to the death or surrender. If your champion wins, we leave your colonies in peace and never return. If mine wins, you hand them over without resistance." Watched's face. She could see him thinking. A duel was better than a war, but who could fight a blade master? They had been training warriors for thousands of years. They were bigger, stronger, and faster than humans. Their combat traditions were legendary. "I would need to consult with my government," said finally. "No," Iran's voice was sharp. "The challenge is issued now. You accept or refuse now. That is the way of the right." The human delegation looked at each other. Cole had gone pale. The military officers were whispering frantically. Oran smiled. "You have no champion, I thought not. Humans fight with machines and weapons that kill from far away. You have forgotten how to stand face to face with death." He began to rise. "The right is refused. My fleet will move at dawn." "Wait." The voice was quiet but clear. Everyone in the room turned to look. Morgan stood beside her service cart. Her hands were folded in front of her. Her face was calm. Oran stared at her. For a moment he seemed confused. Then his eyes narrowed with contempt. "Who speaks?" "The servant." "My name is Morgan." She stepped forward, leaving the cart behind. "I am a citizen of the Terran Republic. I have the right to answer a challenge made against my people." Stood up quickly. "Mrs. Morgan, please, this is not the time." "With respect, Admiral, this is exactly the time." Did not look at him. Her eyes stayed on Oran. "The right of champion against champion, witnesses from the conquered. The fight ends in death or surrender. The loser's side accepts all terms." She spoke the old words perfectly. "Am I correct, Admiral Oran?" The Admiral's expression changed, just slightly. He was no longer looking at her with contempt. Now there was curiosity. "You know our language, you know our customs." He tilted his head. "Interesting for a servant." "I have learned many things in my life." Took another step forward. "I invoke the right of answer. I will be humanity's champion." The room erupted, was shouting that this was impossible. Cole was asking who this woman was. The representative was looking up old laws on a data tablet. The guards had their hands on their weapons. Only Oran remained still. He looked at the way he might look at a puzzle. "You understand what you are asking for." His voice was soft now, dangerous. "This is not a game, not a show. If you face me in the ring, I will kill you, slowly and painfully. You are old and small and human. You have no chance." Smiled. It was a small smile, patient and cold. "Then you have nothing to fear by accepting." Oran stood absolutely still for 3 long breaths. Then he began to laugh. It was a harsh, rattling sound that filled the room. "I like you, human female. You have courage even if you have no skill." He raised one clawed hand. "I accept your challenge. Tomorrow at midday we fight. I will try to make your death quick as a reward for your bravery." He turned and walked out of the room. His guards followed. The door closed behind them. Grabbed's arm. "What have you done? You just condemned yourself to death, and when you die we lose everything." gently removed his hand. Her expression had not changed. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I have not survived this long by dying easily. Now if you will excuse me, I need to prepare." She walked out of the room, leaving her coffee cart behind. Behind her, the human delegation stood in stunned silence. None of them understood what had just happened. None of them knew who she really was. But they would find out. Tomorrow, when the fighting began, they would all find out. The arena was built overnight. Workers from the station assembled it in the main cargo bay, a large open space that could hold thousands. They marked a circle on the floor with white paint, 30 feet across. Inside that circle, two people would fight until one of them could not fight anymore. By noon, the cargo bay was packed. Humans had come from every part of the station, staff members, travelers, merchants who had been passing through and got stuck when the lockdown started. They pressed against the barriers, trying to see, whispering to each other. They had come too. Not many of them, but they stood together on one side of the arena, their scales gleaming under the lights. They looked confident. Why would they not? Their admiral had never lost a fight. Cameras broadcast everything to the galaxy. Billions of beings watched from their homes on 100 different worlds. The fight between the coffee server and the admiral. Most of them expected it to be very short. Morgan stood in a small room behind the arena. They had given her gray fighting clothes, simple and loose, made for movement. She was stretching her arms and legs, warming up muscles that had not been used for serious combat in many years. Admiral came to see her. His face was lined with worry. "It is not too late to stop this," he said. "We can find another way. Surrender the colonies and evacuate the people. At least you will live." Touched her toes and straightened up. "Admiral, how many people live on those 3 worlds?" 12 million. "And if we surrender, what happens to them?" Was silent. They both knew the answer. They did not want the land, they wanted the people, workers, servants, slaves by another name. Humanity had fought one war to stop that fate. Now they faced another. "I am not going to let that happen," said simply. "Not while I can still stand." Shook his head. "You are a food service worker. I checked your file. You have no military training, no combat experience. You worked at a bakery before you came here." Smiled at that. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. "Files can be changed, Admiral. The truth is harder to hide." Before he could ask what she meant, a chime sounded. It was time. Walked out of the room and into the arena. The crowd noise hit her like a wave. Humans were cheering for her, though most of them expected her to die. She supposed they wanted to believe. That was something humans were good at, believing in impossible things. She stepped into the white circle and looked around. They stood across from her, silent and still. In the front row she could see their officers, warriors who had conquered worlds. They looked at her like she was a joke. Then Oran entered. He walked slowly, wearing ceremonial armor that covered his chest and arms. His scales seemed to glow under the bright lights. He carried 2 curved blades, one in each hand, the traditional weapons of a blade master. He had trained with them since he was a child. He had killed with them more times than he could count. The crowd went quiet as he stepped into the circle. He was massive, towering over like a mountain over a hill. His yellow eyes looked down at her with something like pity. "You came," he said. "I thought you might run." "Running is not really my style," held out her hands. An attendant came forward and offered her a single curved blade. She took it and tested its weight. It was balanced for a too heavy for a human. She adjusted her grip and nodded. Oran watched her handle the weapon. His eyes narrowed slightly. "You have held a blade before." "Once or twice." The representative stepped forward. He would serve as the official witness. "The rules of the right are simple," he announced. "Combat ends when one champion dies or surrenders. No outside interference. No weapons except those provided. Victory is final and binding." He looked at both fighters. Do you understand and accept? I accept, Oran said. I accept, said. The stepped back, then begin. Oran did not attack immediately. He circled slowly, watching how she moved. She turned with him, keeping him in front of her. Before you die, he said, I would know something. Why did you do this? You are not a soldier. You are nothing. Why throw your life away for people who do not even know your name? Kept her eyes on his blades, because someone has to. Foolish, noble perhaps, but foolish. He shifted his weight. I will give you one final chance. Put down your weapon, surrender. I will make your death quick and painless. You have earned that much. Shook her head slowly. I have a better idea. Before we do this, I want to tell you something about who I am. Oran paused, curious despite himself. Speak then. You asked for my name yesterday. I told you Morgan. That is the name I use now. The name of a woman who serves coffee and hurts nobody. She adjusted her grip on the blade. But I had another name once, a long time ago, a name your people gave me. Something changed in Oran's expression, a flicker of uncertainty. Spoke a single word in the old military language, a call sign, a legend. The effect was immediate. Around the arena, every who understood the old tongue went rigid. Their expressions changed from confidence to shock to something that looked almost like fear. Oran's blades dropped several inches. His yellow eyes went wide. That name, he whispered, that name belongs to ghosts. The humans who carried it died 30 years ago, at the siege of Prime. Raised her blade. Did we? Are you certain? The Admiral stared at her. He was searching her face now, looking for something. Looking for the young woman he had faced across a burning battlefield 3 decades ago. You, he breathed. You were the commander, the small one. The one who killed General Aaron when her weapons ran empty. He was a good fighter, said quietly. Your mentor, if I remember correctly. You were young then, a lieutenant. You watched him fall. Oran took a step back. For the first time in the conversation, he looked uncertain. The Pale Horsemen, that is what you called yourselves. You held the line for 19 days, 50-1 against you. No supplies, no hope. His voice dropped. We thought we broke you. We thought you were all dead. You thought wrong. The arena was utterly silent now. The humans did not understand what was happening, but the did. They were looking at differently now, not with contempt, with recognition, with memory. Took a step forward. Her movement was different now, smoother, more dangerous. The old woman who served coffee was gone. In her place stood something else, something that had walked through fire and blood and come out the other side. I did not come here to kill you, Oran, she said. I came here to remind you. Humanity did not want war 30 years ago. We do not want war now. We never have. She raised her blade higher. But if you force us to fight, if you push us into a corner and leave us no choice. Her eyes were cold as deep space. We remember how to be monsters. We remember how to become the thing you fear. And we will do it again. Oran stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, he raised his own blades. He said softly, those who walk with death. His mouth twisted into something that was almost respect. I never thought I would face one of you again. You never thought you would have to, replied, but here we are. The Admiral settled into a fighting stance. His uncertainty was gone now, replaced by focus. He was a warrior. She was a warrior. Whatever happened next would be decided by blood. Then let us see, he said, if the legend lives up to the truth. Smiled, it was not a kind smile. Let us see. 30 years ago, the galaxy was a different place. Humanity was younger then, weaker. The galactic conquered existed, but humans were new members, not fully trusted, not fully accepted. When the first war with the began, many species expected humanity to fall. The war was supposed to be quick. They had been conquering worlds for 1,000 years. Their fleets were vast. Their warriors were legendary. Humanity had technology but no experience. Ships but no veterans. Weapons but no will to use them. That was what they believed. They were wrong. Morgan remembered those days like they were yesterday. She had been 26 years old, Lieutenant Morgan, Terran's Special Operations Division. Her unit was called the Pale Horsemen. 16 soldiers trained for impossible missions. They did the jobs nobody else could do: sabotage, assassination, deep cover operations behind enemy lines. When the invasion reached its peak, the Pale Horsemen were sent to Prime, the heart of the enemy, of the species. Their mission was simple: slow down the main fleet long enough for humanity to build defenses, buy time with their lives. They were expected to last 3 days, maybe 4. They lasted 19. Still had nightmares about those days: the burning cities, the endless waves of warriors, the screaming of her soldiers as they fell, one by one. They fought in the streets and in the ruins. They fought with weapons until the weapons ran dry. They fought with knives and hands and teeth. They fought like animals, like demons, like the monsters that called them. Those who walk with death. They gave them that name on the 7th day when they realized the humans would not break, could not break. Something inside them was different, something that did not know how to surrender. Remembered the final day. 3 of them left: herself, a man named Danny Cooper, a woman named Grace Park, surrounded, out of ammunition, out of hope. The General Aaron had come personally to finish them. He was the greatest warrior of his generation. Killed him with her bare hands. She did not remember exactly how. The memory was a blur of blood and pain and rage. She only remembered standing over his body afterward, breathing hard, wondering why she was still alive. They pulled back after that. They could have killed the 3 survivors. It would have been easy, but something had changed. They looked at the humans differently now, not as prey, as something else, something they had never seen before. The war ended 6 months later. The peace treaty included a single unusual clause: neither side would ever speak publicly of what happened at Prime. The Pale Horsemen were listed as killed in action. Their records were erased. Their names were forgotten. Except in their warrior monasteries, in the dark places where old soldiers shared old stories, they remembered. They whispered about the human demons who would not die, the ghosts who walked through fire and kept fighting. The name had become a legend, a warning, a reminder that some enemies should not be pushed too far. Now, 30 years later, the legend stood in a fighting circle with a blade in her hand. Oran attacked first. He was fast for his size, moving like water, his twin blades cutting through the air in patterns that should have been impossible to follow. Did not try to follow them. She moved on instinct, her body remembering what her mind had tried to forget. The first exchange lasted 3 seconds. Metal rang against metal, twisted away from a strike that would have taken her head. Her own blade scored a thin line across Oran's arm. First blood. The watching gasped. Their admiral had been touched, by a human, by an old woman. Oran looked at the cut on his arm. A thin trickle of dark blood ran down his scales. He looked at with new eyes. "You are not as slow as you appear," he said. "You are not as fast as you think." Circled to her left. Her breathing was steady. Her heart was calm. This was what she had been made for all those years ago. Fighting was like breathing to her. She had tried to forget. She had tried to become someone else. But the warrior inside her had never truly died. They clashed again and again. The fight became a dance, brutal and beautiful. Oran had strength and reach, had speed and experience. He could kill her with a single solid blow. She could not afford to let him land one. The minutes passed. Both fighters were bleeding now, had cuts on her arm and side. Oran had wounds on his arms, his chest, his leg. Neither would fall. The human crowd was screaming. They did not understand how their coffee server was doing this. They did not know about the training, the years of preparation, the missions that had forged her into a weapon. They only knew that she was still standing. Oran stepped back, breathing hard. "You fight like you did at Prime, I remember now, watching from a distance as you killed my master." His yellow eyes were bright with something complicated. Hatred, respect, perhaps both. I have waited 30 years to face one of you, to prove that you are not demons, not ghosts, just humans who got lucky. Wiped blood from her face. And what have you learned? He was silent for a moment. Then he laughed, a short, harsh sound. I have learned that luck had nothing to do with it. He attacked again, faster this time, more desperate. His blades were a storm of metal, could barely keep up. She was getting tired. She was not 26 anymore. Her body was older, slower, weaker than it had been. She could not keep this pace forever. But she did not need forever. She only needed an opening. Oran overextended on a thrust. Just slightly. Just enough. Saw it happen as if in slow motion. Her body moved before her mind could think. She dropped under his blade, stepped inside his reach, and brought her own weapon up in a strike that should have been impossible. Her blade stopped at his throat. His blade stopped at hers. The arena went absolutely silent. They stood like that, frozen, each one a heartbeat away from killing the other. Could feel his breath on her face, hot and sharp. She could see her own reflection in his yellow eyes. Yield, she said quietly. If I yield, my people lose everything. His voice was steady, but there was something new in it, something that sounded almost like doubt. If you yield, your people gain something better than victory. Did not move her blade. They gain allies who have proven themselves worthy, warriors who understand what it means to fight, to sacrifice, to stand when everything tells you to fall. Oran stared at her. The moment stretched on. Around them, thousands of beings held their breath. You would offer peace, he asked, after everything we threatened, after we tried to take your worlds. I would offer a choice, said. The same choice I made 30 years ago, the choice between destruction and something better. For a long moment the Admiral did not move. His blade trembled slightly against her throat. One push and she would die. One push and the war would begin. Then slowly he lowered his weapon. The crowd erupted. Humans were cheering, crying, screaming in disbelief. They stood in stunned silence. Their supreme commander had yielded to a human, to a woman who served coffee. But understood, this was not defeat, this was something else. This was the beginning of something new. The cheering went on for a long time, lowered her blade and stepped back. Her whole body was shaking now, the energy of the fight draining away and leaving only exhaustion. She had cuts that needed treatment, muscles that would ache for weeks. She was too old for this, and her body was making sure she knew it. But she had won. Oran stood where he was, his weapons hanging at his sides. The mighty Admiral of the fleet, undefeated in 100 battles, had yielded to a human woman half his size. His officers watched from the edge of the arena, their faces showing shock and confusion. One of them stepped forward, a young with golden scales and angry eyes. Admiral, you cannot do this. You cannot surrender to these creatures. The honor of our people demands. The honor of our people, Oran interrupted quietly, demands that we recognize a worthy enemy. He turned to face his officers. I fought at Prime. I saw what these humans can do when they are pushed to their limits. I watched them hold a line that should have broken in hours for 19 days. His voice grew stronger. This woman was there. She killed the greatest warrior of our generation with her bare hands. She and her kind earned our respect with blood and fire. He turned back too. Slowly, carefully, he placed his fist over his chest. It was the salute of honor, the gesture one warrior gave to another. He said, Ghost of Prime, I yield not to weakness but to strength. You have reminded me of something I had forgotten. Humanity is not a species of cowards. You are warriors who choose peace. That is a different thing entirely. Returned the salute. Her arm was trembling, but she held it steady. Admiral Oran, your people are also warriors, strong and proud. We do not have to be enemies. We never did. The arena was quiet now. Everyone was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Oran was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. his voice carrying to every corner of the room. I came here to take your colonies, to prove that humanity was weak, to show the galaxy that they are still the greatest warriors in existence. He paused. I was wrong, not about our strength, but about yours. He turned to the representative who had served as witness. The rite has been completed. I, Oran, Supreme Admiral of the fleet, have been defeated. The terms of the duel are binding. The nodded slowly. Under the laws of the conquered, the losing party must accept whatever terms the winner demands. Morgan, as champion of the Terran Republic, what are your terms? Every eye in the room turned too. This was her moment. She could demand anything. Reparations, territory, the complete withdrawal of the from human space forever. The power to reshape the relationship between their species was in her hands. She was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then she spoke. I have only one term. I want peace. Real peace. Not a treaty signed under threat. Not a truce that will break down in another 30 years. She looked at Iran. I want an alliance. A partnership between our peoples. We stand together against whatever threats the galaxy throws at us. We learn from each other. We grow stronger together. Murmurs ran through the crowd. This was not what anyone had expected. The humans had assumed would demand punishment for the threats. They had expected humiliation. Oran studied her face. You could ask for anything. Revenge for what we threatened. Wealth beyond measure. And you ask for partnership. I have seen enough war, said simply. Enough death. Enough hate. I did not fight today to destroy your people. I fought to show you that we are worth respecting. Now I am asking you to respect us as equals, to work with us instead of against us. The Admiral was quiet for a very long time. Around the arena, officers whispered to each other. Some looked angry, others looked thoughtful. This was not how their culture worked. Winners took from losers. That was the way of things. But Oran had seen something different at Prime. He had watched humans fight with a fury that matched anything his people could muster. He had learned in those terrible days that humanity was not what they had assumed. They were not soft. They were not weak. They had simply chosen a different path. Perhaps it was time for them to consider a different path as well. An alliance, he said slowly, with humans. He looked at his officers. Some of them nodded, others did not. But he was the Admiral, the choice was his. They have never had true allies, only subjects and enemies. This would be new. New is not always bad, said. Oran looked at her for another long moment. Then slowly a smile crossed his face. It was not a pretty smile, too many teeth, too much history behind it, but it was genuine. Very well, Ghost of Prime, I accept your terms. He extended one clawed hand. An alliance of equals. May our enemies learn to fear us both. Took his hand. Her small human fingers were almost lost in his massive grip, but her grip was firm, unafraid. May they indeed, she said. The treaty was signed that night. Not the surrender they had demanded. Not the humiliation the humans had feared. Something unprecedented. A mutual defense pact between two warrior cultures that had nearly destroyed each other 30 years ago. Historians would later call it the Peace of Equals. It would last for generations. But that night, after the ceremonies and the speeches and the endless handshakes, Morgan quietly slipped away from the celebration. She found a bathroom and cleaned her wounds as best she could. She changed out of her fighting clothes and back into her gray uniform. The next morning she was back at her station. The coffee cart was where she had left it, cleaned and restocked by someone else. She picked it up and began her rounds. Admiral found her in the hallway. He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost, which, in a way, he was. Lieutenant Morgan, he said softly, I looked up your real file, the classified one, the one that requires clearance I barely have. He shook his head. You were listed as killed in action 30 years ago, you and your team, the Pale Horsemen. Most of us were killed, said. She filled a coffee cup and handed it to him. 3 of us survived. We were given new names. New lives. The government thought it was safer that way, for us and for everyone else. Safer. Smiled, it was her old smile again, kind and warm, the smile of a woman who served coffee and remembered everyone's name. We were not the same after Prime, what we had become. It was hard to turn off, hard to go back to normal life. They gave us peace, a chance to be human again. Took the coffee but did not drink it. And you just poured coffee for 8 years. The greatest warrior in human history, and you were working in food service. I was living, said simply, living a quiet life, helping people in small ways, being kind. She looked out the window at the stars. That is what we fought for, Admiral. Not glory, not power, the right to live simple, happy lives. I did not want to fight again, but when I had to, she shrugged. Some things are worth fighting for. Was quiet for a moment. Then he raised his coffee cup in a small salute. Thank you, he said, for what you did for all of us. Nodded and pushed her cart down the hallway. Behind her, the Admiral watched her go, just an ordinary woman in a gray uniform. Nobody special, nobody important. But across the galaxy, in warrior halls and human military academies, they told a new story. The story of the woman who served coffee in the meeting room, the grandmother who beat an alien admiral in single combat, the ghost who came back one more time to save her people. They called her, those who walk with death, the greatest human warrior who ever lived. But she preferred, it was a simpler name, a kinder name, the name of a woman who had finally found peace. And if the galaxy ever needed her again, if humanity ever faced another impossible threat, she would be there, waiting, ready, pouring coffee and watching with those calm, patient eyes. Some warriors die on the battlefield, some fade away, and some just keep going, quiet and invisible, until the day the universe calls them back. Morgan filled another cup of coffee and smiled at the morning light streaming through the window. It was going to be a good day.